Hey, it says I'm live, so if it tells me I'm live, I must be live. DG here on 365 Days of Gratitude. I know you are not used to me broadcasting in the afternoon. If I do broadcast, it'll be in the evening time. But do I have a treat for those that will be joining, those that I'll be listening to this a little bit later on? But do me a favor, if you're going to watch it live and you want to interact, there's a quick link there that just says StreamYard. You can click it. It'll bring up like your Facebook mugshot if you have one. But the bigger part, it allows you to put your comments in where we can see them. And I'm using the word we because I got a treat in the wings right now for y'all, where we can see them and answer and interact. So if you are on there, and it's a quick link in there. It just says 360. It says StreamYard. So in hiding out in the wings, I got a dear friend of mine, and I say that with every fiber of my being. Dear friend of mine. Not only a friend, but a mentor. He's a coach, affectionately known as Coach BO, but everyone who knows him calls him Coach because that's who he is. He was creating change agents before change agents became popular. He's a pastor. He is, there's just, I could be here with the accolades ongoing. And so kind of the backdrop, he and I have known each other for years. We decided many years ago to collaborate and to come together. And he's just, he let me coattails what he did. He didn't charge me for coattailing is what he didn't do. He should have, and just being mentored in areas in my life that I needed. And it's so key because there's areas in your life where a mentor is huge. If you've never been to the gym and you don't know how to navigate around a gym, what do you get? You get a trainer. Why? Because trainers, they know about different parts and they know their industry. So I didn't have to get a trainer. He was there, and it's just so powerful. So I'm going to bring him on. We're going to talk about some very powerful things. And I tell you what, you will be, just hold on as I'm going to tell you. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring on my dear brother and friend, Coach VO. Coach.
Dr. Givens.
Hey, it's let me quit playing here for a minute. I'm letting them peek behind the curtain a little bit early.
That's all right.
But as I was saying, and again, if you're listening to it live, there's a quick link that says StreamYard. You can click it, and I'll be able to see your comments when you drop some comments in there. Or if you're watching this a little bit later on, you could drop your comments, and I promise you that I'll come back through and answer as much as I can, and to catch you up to speed. So. Where do I begin? If I just start with my own life, there are places in your life as you are, spiritually speaking, that the infinite God connects you with folks that are, with all due respect, they're further along on the trail. And that doesn't mean that they're better than or you're less than. It's just that they are experience on the journey. And it's one thing about being on the journey by yourself, but it's another thing about finding someone that has already gone ahead, and then they can help navigate, and not to hold you down, but says, listen, okay, let me show you some of the pitfalls. Let me show you here. And this man has been that to me. And so we spent countless hours at Starbucks. I can't name him. I couldn't put a number on the countless hours of Starbucks that our conversation would begin, and 3 hours later, we're still sitting there. And so I'm like, hey, V, why don't we allow, as he drinks his Starbucks cup, but why don't we begin to share what you and I talk about? I mean, I can tell you it's changed my life, and he's always open. He's a pastor, preacher. There's so many accolades. And so, hey, Coach, what you got? Talk to me, Coach. Talk to me.
Oh, man. from 0 to 100. We would talk about everything. So there was
Yes.
nothing that was not on the table. I mean, we talked about life really, and that's what really connected us. Really, we're both on our own journeys, and when our paths crossed again, it was amazing. And I was like, wow. I just saw, the direction, you were traveling in, and saw the direction I was going. I said, well, listen, let's meet. And I'll never forget, when we met at the Chinese restaurant there,
Yeah,
man, and
yeah, yeah.
out there in the Montbello. And we were able to really converse. And man, I heard some things that day, man, that stayed with me, that you said.
Right,
You made an indelible imprint. I'm one man. I'm the same man. You're not gonna get a bunch of faces. Some people, they're this way on this stage and this way. When I'm talking to Donald Givens, what you see is what you're gonna get. And that's what I really appreciated most, was your transparency, and our ability, man, to connect, man. And we just fostered it, man. We helped each other, man. I can't really say like, the mentors, I mean, that's cool, but I felt like the recipient. I've
right.
always walked away feeling like the better man. You know what I mean? Like
I do.
every experience that we had together, brother. Even today, I'm like,
Right.
wow, with this platform, and it's just amazing to see the growth and what you've done. So I got to echo it back to you, my brother.
Hey, you know what? And just to kind of catch people up to speed that aren't from the Colorado area and
Right.
don't know who VO is, if you could thumbnail, hey, who is VO? Who is Vincent Owens? Who's Coach VO, affectionately known as Coach? Who are you?
Well, I'm a husband. I'm a father of 10. I'm from a family of 14. I'm number 7, and I would always, float that I'm the seventh child, the seventh day. You know what I mean? Triple seven, and so I got sandwiched in, that experience. I had older siblings, and then I had the younger ones that I had to rear and raise, and so, my life was kind of unique like that. But you know, had a great mentor, which was my father. A lot of
Yes.
people can't say
Yes.
that. You know, I call him Gamaliel, you know what I mean? And, I had the privilege to be able to sit at his feet, and just listen to the wise counsel, man, that came from him, man. And so I became kind of like the uh, the youngest, most responsible in our Owens clan,
Right.
family wise. And so that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I'm a basketball enthusiast. I love sports. I love peak performance. I love you know people excelling. I like the underdog. I really do.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
always been a fan for the underdog, and to give them competitive advantages, so that the guys who are supposed to win, the most likely to succeed, and all of those people with the nice hair and perfect teeth, and the whole nine, and the built like a Greek god, and some of those folks that they said that to, going through and finding out what I found out on my journey, I found out that wasn't true. Some of those people ended up on crack, and it was a eye-opening experience, a
Yes.
jaw-dropping one. You go 25, 30 years out, man, and things start to change drastically.
Very wise.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very wise. You talked about coaching, and so folks don't know that you're also a high school basketball coach,
correct.
and you are always using that analogy, basketball analogies, whenever we're sitting down, because you kind of help you. One thing that I really appreciate about you is that you simplify things. You keep it simple, and you folks don't know you're renowned in Colorado in basketball. You hold records in basketball, and there's not a court you can't go on that folks don't know VO. And so you have a reputation. You've built a reputation. And I tell you what, you spoke that you're the recipient. I too am the recipient of what has transpired in your life, and you have shared it openly with me. And I'm eternally grateful. There's some things you talked about, and we're going to get into the 3 keys to fulfillment. If folks have saw the header on what I put out there with 3 keys to fulfillment, and that's all about keeping it simple. You know, I know you are a master teacher without a doubt. Scripture speaks of master teacher. You're a pastor's pastor. You know, you don't just read the word. You know the word. You become, you know, the scriptures that you read, and the Bible speaks of that we are epistles, you know, read of all men. We are the epistle, and you are the epistles, one of the epistles, an open book to all men. And so, just talking about moving from a financial aspect, how did you transform mentally, or how did you transform where you were to where you are, and you know, on a financial aspect?
Well, you know, I grew up, you know, poor, you know, but you know, I didn't know I was poor. You know what I mean? And sometimes, you know, you don't realize until you get exposed to, you know, other elements to where you realize. I had no idea, man. I didn't have the foggiest idea, man, that I was poor. You know, because you know we had a lot of you know, stuff around. You know what I mean? You know, we had basic, you know, needs and that kind of thing. You know, I had my leather jacket, and you know, when I needed it, I had Chuck Taylors when I needed to get them, and you know what I mean. And you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have my Levi's, you know, my 501s, you know, creased and whatnot. You know, so I was, you know, one of the guys, man. But one of the things that I found out is through exposure. You know, the game of basketball put me in some spaces where, you know, I saw some things differently, and I saw people living a different life, and you know, it caused you to start to think like, you know, I never saw that before. You know what I mean? Never knew that before. And just being in those types of environments, man, having, you know, a mind to see, you know, we have that formula: exposure times conversion equals results.
Right.
What you're exposed to, you know, you convert to. You know, if you're exposed enough time, you know, it's going, you know, you're going to start to get an element, man, and uh, you know, there's going to be a result pop out of there, you know.
And you
And so,
know, the a powerful piece on that formula is the exposure times conversion equals results. I'm a recipient of that. Exposure times conversion, it will equal the result. You know, the more you're exposed to things, and it doesn't matter what the exposure is. You
correct.
know, it doesn't matter, because if you're exposed to something long enough, you'll be a partaker of that particular environment, and being a particular of that particular environment now is the result. That's the result there. And so many a times people are trying to change the result. They're looking, you know, there's a phrase that says you put the cart before the horse. They want to try to look result oriented, but they haven't gone back to the exposure, the origin, the beginning. And that's one of the things that, you know, you and I really will do on a weekly basis to share, to help expose another way to look at something, you know, and we'll do it from a spiritual aspect and a greater realm too. But it helped my own, you know, you have a phrase that says, you know, you get skull banged. That means that my mind, there's so much that came to me. I had to like, okay, hold on, Vio. I'm gonna have to leave and go and digest what everything you just said, you know. And that's why I enjoyed keep coming back to the table, because you were saying it over and over and over, you know, and we know repetition is the mother of all skill. And then it became Rhema to me. Then I could begin to own it, you know, because due to that exposure. So I use the word excited about what we have collaborated, what we'll lay out in front of folks.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing. Like I said, what I was exposed to, you know, early on with guys like Randy Redwine, D. Ray Edwards, George Price. You know, you hear me reference those guys. Art Humphrey, A.B. Maxey. Uh, you know, these were guys that had an indelible imprint on shaping my, you know, that put me in areas athletically that exposed me to different rails. You know, Mr. Charles Christian, you know, Uncle Charles, you know, affectionately known as Uncle Charles. I mean, you know, my uncle, I didn't even realize he was my uncle till later, you know what I mean? Till later, you know what I
Right.
mean? And so, you know, but we competed against, you know, the best, we got exposed, early, to Dr. Daddio, Showcase of Stars, Maddox Ice, these semi-pro teams of Tom Bowens and Tex Winners and, guys like that. We played against Warren Jabali and, Puff Magic and, guys, these are guys, Zelmo Beatty and, all these guys, the late great Sam Beatty, all that.
Right.
We got exposed to that kind of ball as a young person, and they dipped us into that deep training, man. I was reading that book called The Talent Code, and it really kind of opened up my eyes about deep training and being placed in a little box, and, out in Glowville, and a little small gym that had a short ceiling, and you dribble 2 or 3 times and you're past half court, and so it was a little, it was a wall on one end and the steps on the other end, and just when you got those type of players in that thing, there's only so much room to do, so you had to create off the cuff. You had to, people were like, well, goodness, when we got on the open court where it was really 94 feet, you know what I mean? It was like, oh boy, they had something to see, because we played in that little confined area, you know what I mean? And some real champions came out of there, you know what I mean?
I love it. One of the things you just did, and folks it probably didn't catch it, but you dropped a book there. Whenever we would sit, because I would read, but I wasn't an avid reader. I've become since then an avid reader. But you spoke of a book, The Talent Code. And so if you're listening to this live, or you'll be listening to it later, I would always suggest that you keep a pen and pencil handy, because the easiest thing is to write things down, because it's easy to remember. But, we really believe that leaders are readers. Leaders are always reading, and it expands your vocabulary. It expands your tent, expands your mind to so many other things. And so The Talent Code is a very powerful book. I have not had the opportunity. I'm taking my own notes. I haven't had the opportunity to read that, but I will. I'm a big books on tape, or, that I listen to them as I'm driving, as I'm moving around. And so I'm thankful for that. Well, I want to talk about what we've been talking about. And there's so many people, and I couldn't quantify a number, but they're always asking questions like, what is my purpose? Like, what is my purpose? What am I here to do? Why is it that it seems that this group of people can fulfill what they've wanted, and this group can't? And, this group over here on that side of the street seems like they got everything going together, and this group doesn't. And what is it that we usually ask ourselves? What is it that I'm not doing that they're doing? And a lot of times that people, what they're doing and is not something super that cannot be done from the simple. There's a great word that I love that you talked to me about. It was contrived complexity. And at its most layman term, it's taking the most simple thing and making it so difficult that you will there's no way you can accomplish it. It doesn't matter. It's like contrived complexity, making as hard as possible for the next person, for you. And then and then you seem to be taking one step, and then here comes a wave, and now you're down, you're down. And then once a person gets like that, they just turn back and go into their place of, where they came from. Correct. And it's masterfully done. But once you can peek past that and you can see it, you'll see a lot of things they're not difficult. They just need discipline. I know you're big on discipline. And I wanted to talk about, I created some slides. I said, hey, V, show me some slides. And we might or might not be able to get through all of them today, because I don't want to rush. I mean, I'll be like, stop. Okay, explain that. And because explaining, you can, stop and really explain it and make it simple. It helps people to grasp it, to understand it, and then become the owner of it. There's one thing to see it, but there's another thing to own it. Once you own it, it is yours, and no one can take it from you. Right. And so the 3 keys of fulfillment. I'm gonna throw this up here for just a quick second. I don't know if they can see that. I don't know if the people can see that. It was a quick slide. It just, there it is. It says 3 keys of fulfillment. without really going into the first key, talk to me about the 3 keys of fulfillment. How did that impact your life once you got a hold of it?
Well, like I said, it was a series. I mean, there were people like that I was exposed to business wise, coming out of a not so nice place, having a lot of time on my hands and having time to read and, grab a hold of. I read a book called The Wealth of Nations. It wasn't a fun read. I mean,
Right.
by Adam Smith. And man, I tell you, I just got so frustrated, I mean, reading it and starting to understand, I have my dictionary and thesaurus with me. And
I can't hear you. I think somebody tried to call you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Now I can.
Yeah,
Okay.
man. Somebody just tried to call me.
Call me. Yeah.
It's just amazing.
It is what it is, bro.
Yeah. But I was like, that book, just it did something for me. It did something to me, and it frustrated the heck out of me, man. I read something, I saw something in there that said they called themselves the masters of mankind, and man, I was that just rubbed me the wrong way. You know what I mean? And just it made me dig a little deeper, and to get into the mentality of what they were saying, where they were calling themselves this, and in order to extrapolate wealth out of this is a mindset that they had to adopt in a philosophy. And the more I thought about it, I was like, wow, man, this is it just made me dig. And I was exposed to people, after coming out of that situation to, guys like Rudy Clay Jr. His dad was the mayor of Gary, Indiana. And, he was into network marketing and he introduced me to Barry Donaldson and Cedric Rashad. And, those guys, I ended up meeting David Rutz and Vito Terracciano and,
giants in the network marketing industry. Giants,
huge,
giants.
Beasts. They were industry icons. And being in that environment, man, kind of forced me to level up. They were recommending certain books and they were recommending, certain things and environments and getting out of town and, going to a whole nother environment. I didn't realize what that was actually doing, but it, raised my vibrato, and like, you can retain much more. That's why spring training, they never train in the area where they play at. They always go to spring training in a whole nother place, man, because they want to be secluded and they want to get something in them so that when they get back into that area of familiarity, they're ready to compete and they're ready to ball. And so it was that kind of environment that kind of drove me, Donald.
And you do it again. So I'm used to it. How you quickly gave an analogy on spring training, and if a person's not paying attention, you listen to it the first time. It's so key. Listen, okay, so the Dallas, most of the sports industry, they do that. I know football and baseball, they do that. I'm here in Sarasota, Bradenton, big time capital of the minor league teams or the majors come and do a spring training. But they do it in baseball and they do it in football. They leave the place of familiarity. Yes. They leave the place of familiarity. Mm-hmm. And I would be remiss if I don't repeat this again, that you're like a pastor's pastor. And so somebody could be listening to this and be like, man, they haven't said Jesus one time. They haven't said God one time. Always talking about the Lord and watching the Lord move in your life and my life and those that will be watching this now live or watching it later. But you said something very powerful. You said they leave the place of familiarity, mm-hmm. and they have to leave it to go to another spot to train. That sounds like Abraham. That sounds like something that, mm-hmm. God told Abraham. He said, Abraham, leave your place of familiarity.
Come on, man. Come on.
and the thing is, we're going to get to these 3 keys. Yeah, but the thing is, in order to grow, you have to leave the place that you're familiar. Vincent, Coach VO, I'm going to call you that. Avil, why is it important to leave the place of familiarity?
But you know everything about that. That means your mind becomes conditioned. It becomes closed. You know, when you leave and you go into a new area, your they call it your neural pathways in your mind. Are forced to create a whole nother river, a whole nother pathway. And you're going to retain, because hey, you depend on it. Your information for fight or flight comes in because you don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what's down the street. You're in a whole new environment, and so your senses are heightened. And if you can get information into someone in that state, in that particular mode of consciousness, man, it's going to make an indelible imprint. It's going to have an impact. When your tent is stretched, it can never go back to the capacity the way it used to be.
Never. It can never go back.
It just can't go back. And so, you know, Abraham was told to get out of of the Chaldeans. You know what I mean, and go into a land, a city whose builder and maker was God.
Right.
And, we look at that, and we say, well, he was looking for a city. He was looking for a municipality. He was looking for, what he was really looking for was himself. You know what I mean?
Yes.
When we investigate the scripture and we begin to look back into it and we navigate to the New Testament, and we find out that he said that you are a city on a hill.
Come on now.
This is what Christ was calling. He
Yeah.
said, the anointed one with the anointing said, you are a city. You are a city, and Abraham was searching for this city and not even realizing that he was the city.
He was the city. Yes.
You know
yes,
what I mean?
yes.
And,
I do.
He was this municipality, this place, man, of governance, this place now of transparency, this place that was going to allow him to, to stretch. And he could never go back to
He couldn't go back to Ur, right?
He never did. And I was forced to, come out of that area. We were 4 generations of poverty.
Right.
I mean, 4 generations, 4. And my parents, their parents, their parents, and their parents. And so we just we were doing what. Like I said, we had 30, 40,000 meals with the wrong financial planner.
Right.
They couldn't teach us what they didn't know. But by us being exposed to, a Rudy Clay Jr. or, his dad being the entire mayor of a whole city.
Right.
In Gary, Indiana. And at that time, man, having lived in Gary and, Chicago and Milwaukee and, it just put a toughness in you. I don't know no other way to put it, but you can't just be walking around, just floating around through the city. You're gonna be tested. You're gonna be tried. Somebody's gonna call you on the carpet, and you got to perform or either cower down. And boy, you'd never live it down if you did.
That's true. And it sounds like the movement of Abraham. And so when we're talking about moving, because we're talking about these 3 keys of fulfillment. Abraham could not fulfill what he was called to do, staying in Ur of the Chaldees. Could not. So
right.
The instruction was to leave. Now, someone's listening to us now. One thing you always need to understand: we're speaking on a spiritual aspect. Yes, there's a physical realm that you can physically go, but you can physically go somewhere, but still be mentally in the place that you left.
Yes.
And so, again, you can physically go. That's why people, when they are having issues where they are, say issue real slow. Can I? He said, y'all just watching us enjoy our cup of coffee here. One day I'm sitting with him. I said, Coach, man, I'm having issues. I'm having issues, man. I'm so many issues. He said, say issue real slow. I said, what? He said, say issue real slow. I said, it's you. And he just busted out laughing. I'm like, it's me. The issues that I'm having are me.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to blame this, and this, and this. He's like, say it real slow. And I say that because people are, okay, you know what? I'm going to leave Denver. I'm leaving Florida. I'm going here or I'm going there. And wherever they go, they take them with them. But they've never changed. They never
Oh man.
mentally made the ascend. Mentally, they are still where they are.
Yes.
And so when we're speaking of movement, it's on a spiritual level that you spiritually, mentally,
Yes.
Paul speaks about that mind. Paul always talks about that mind. That mind has to move first.
Yes.
Because you can get the instructions, but still have the old mindset.
That's true.
And you will never ascend. You can never truly fulfill. And I tell you what, that is a disheartening place to be.
It's cold-blooded, I mean, it's a cold-blooded place because, we always walk around with I call the duality of reality. You know what I mean? Where we are right now, that's our current reality. But where we're going when we leave here is our preferred reality.
Right.
Where we prefer to be after this event is over with. And so, but we're walking around, but when we get to that place of preference, it becomes our current.
Truth.
So we walk around with this all day long, going from to fro, from departure to arrival, with two different screens sitting here, you're in Florida, I'm here in Denver, you know what I mean? And, but we've collided time frames, we've collapsed them, we're in the same current reality right now, but we both have in our minds where we're going to be when this broadcast is over.
Right.
You understand what I mean? And then when we get there, the earth shifts around us, that becomes our, current
reality. Yes.
And, this is what happens to people. Sometimes, they don't really understand, the piece of the law of diminishing intent, where, when you get something or, you get the new car or you get the house or, if you don't have a preferred set in there when you get there, well, it starts to diminish. The luster starts to leave.
Right.
You begin to, get the sin of familiarity. Sometimes we get so common with a thing, we don't even realize the brilliance of getting to that particular place. We forget about the journey that caused us to get there. And I'm so glad that we're talking about this now. And we're talking about the future, the key, the fulfillment of the three keys to fulfillment, to future, that preferred reality, that thing that we're preferring. There are some steps. There are steps, to get there. These three keys, one key can get you in a certain door, but a master key can get you in any door.
Yes. 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 And yes.
And I believe in breaking it down to the ridiculous. So, if I could get it, I mean, we even say terms like a dog with a note in his mouth. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we don't have to make it so complex.
Right.
You know what I mean? But, you got the people who do that, you know what I mean? And they understand what they're doing. Sometimes they love contrived complexity. But we like to take the complex and make it simple. So that the average person can break out of mediocrity and begin to do some things above average and say, wow, man, if I knew it was that, you know how it is, you're dealing with the bully, the bully is running you here and there, got you taking your chocolate milk, your peanut butter cookies. And then all of a sudden you say, man, these are my peanut butter cookies. This is my chocolate milk.
Right.
We gotta
get about it.
We gotta get about it, bro. I can't have you taking this, right? And when you have that kind of mentality to say, no, I'm gonna make a stand here, and this is where I'm gonna stand. I just decided that wealth was for me.
Yeah, I love what you said. There are two things, and we're going to continue to talk about is the law of diminishing intent. And you will hear us talk about laws because you really expanded my mind to understand universal laws and principles. The universe operates on laws and principles. Everything is governed by a law. Everything. It doesn't matter. And we'll get into that. And you'll talk again about the law of diminishing intent. And again, if you're listening to this live or you're listening to it a little bit later, I would highly recommend, I never tell someone what to do, but I can make a recommendation that you begin to write these down and go back and take a look at them. Why? Because most of the time, if you're not at work or you're doing something extra, you're going to be in front of a TV. Well, most likely that's not giving you anything. It may entertain or it may scare the hell out of you. One of the two things, you know. But if you can break away from that, now that back to that familiarity, we're familiar. Our patterns are familiar. When you get off from work, you come home, and if you don't have to cook, you slouch, you know, you get you something to eat, and then you grab the remote, you know, and we do it over and over and over till it becomes pattern and habit for us. But what helped me was to learn to break these patterns and habits, you know. And so when you're hearing something that, you know, coach is speaking, or you might hear something that I would say is write it down and then go and research it. You know, be like a Berean, go and research it. Because it's interesting when you start getting a dictionary, you get the thesaurus, and you've got all that in the palm of your hand. You can write it down. Why? Now you can begin to expand. Now you're learning something. You're self-learning and self-development and self-help. You know, and so it's one of them. You'll hear us speak on laws and principles. They govern your life. They govern my life. They've always governed, whether you agree with them or not. You know, whether you agree with it or not. You know, and so. There's a phrase they say in laws, ignorance is no excuse of the law. You can't say, well, I didn't know. Like, well, I'm sorry you didn't know, because the law is still the law, you know. And so you're going to want to, you might want to invest your time and begin to hear some of these laws that govern you. They govern me. They govern the lower level, this dimension here. Back to the 3 keys of fulfillment. And I'm going to go to about 45 minutes. So we got about 9 minutes. I'm going to get to this first one. And you kind of kicked us off, and you spoke of know exactly what you want. You know, the 3 keys of fulfillment, the first one, listen, this isn't 10 steps to get a prayer answered. This isn't, you know, 15 ways to get the Lord to move, or this is not that. This is not, you need to do a bunch of these you need to do a bunch of these things. A lot of the steps is you need to do this, and you need to do that. You need to do that. And many people are frustrated because they're like, man, I did everything they said to do, and I'm still not seeing that key word result. Because truthfully, it's not about the doing. It's the inside. It's the mental aspect of it. And the first part in which you'll talk about is to know. Listen to the words that we're using. To know exactly what you want. Coach V, talk about that. Talk about to know exactly what you want.
Now, you know, you got, you know, there's something inherent that's on the inside of you. And we have these desires. You know, there's certain things that, you know, I say, you know, if you could be the person that you desire to be, you know, what would that feel like? You know, I begin to ask people, you know, those radioactive questions, and you know what I mean? You know, I got that from my man, Moses Brewer. You know, he was one of my mentors and still is, you know, I mean, to this day, you know,
powerful man.
Just, you know, I'm just in awe of, you know, how he came all the way from, you know, you know, Florence, Alabama, you know what I'm saying? And to, you know, get to DU and become college educated, and ended up with one of the premier, you know, beverage Coors beer for years. He was the guy, man, that just
the guy. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. You know, if you didn't know Mo Brew, you didn't know nothing, right?
Yeah.
Not only on the hoop side, man, but you know, my guy Bill Jones, Puff Magic, Puff and I were coaching over at George Washington High School. I digress just a little bit, but I'm gonna get right back.
They sitting around the table with us, man. This is what we do. They sitting around the table.
You know, I mean, you know, this is what we do at Starbucks. You know what I mean? You know,
they
we
sitting around the table with us.
We get around, we get back to, you know, the meat of things, right? Because, you know, Puff was sitting there talking about Mo Brew, and so he called him prone, and I was like, why you calling? Why, you know, come on, why you calling Mr. Brewer prone? You know what I'm saying? And so, because they had known each other, you know, they played on the same team at DU, you know, played for the, the late great, the guy that coached the Bulls. I'm trying to think of his name now. Michael's arch nemesis, Michael Jordan can't stand the guy. You
Tex
know, no, not Tex, but the guy before Phil came, before Phil Jackson came to, but anyway, his name will come to me, but he said because, Moses kept getting hurt. He said he kept getting hurt, man. They was going to the hole. There's some big bulls in there, whatnot. And so he was injury prone. And so, I like to die laughing, but I was like, I'll never call him that. But I just had to say that, man. But getting back to, what we're saying is, when you get, and exactly what it is, exactly what it is that you desire. Whatever it is, there's something inherently on the inside of you, man, that allows you to, what it's going to feel like. If I were to have that particular ride or that house or, that or this particular amount, for me, it was six figures. I just couldn't get past, I said, man, if I could ever get to that, man,
yes.
I mean, I couldn't see it, $1 million. I couldn't see because I was stuck at 75K. I was stuck.
Right.
I couldn't see it, until I desired more, from being exposed to more. That's what made me desire more, to want more. You know what I mean? I don't like the word want so much, but I mean, I understand what it's, but you start to desire things. Desire is the starting point to all achievement.
Mark 11:24 says, therefore, Mark speaks on it, because if you know what you want, there's a desire that begins to churn into you, that begins to churn inside of you. Mark 11:24, and you're a man of the word. It says, therefore, I say unto you, whatsoever thing you desire.
Come on.
Whatsoever thing you desire when you pray, he says, what's the next thing? Believe. See, when you know what you want, it begins. This is key, folks. This is key. And because when you know what you want, I always say, do exercise. Listen to people that complain. Don't let them know what you're doing. Just observe people that are always complaining, are always talking about what they don't want, they don't have. They're continuing to focus on what they don't have. I did a little exercise at one time. This person was complaining about this and that. I said, well, what do you want? They froze. They talked about so much what they didn't want to happen, what they don't want. They didn't even know what they did want. And guess what? The universal law is it's abundance and no lack. It gave them more of the abundance what they didn't want, because they were not in the vein clarity on what they did want. That scripture says, whatsoever thing you desire when you pray, believe. Knowing what you want, burst that.
Man, knowing exactly. You know what I mean? Not, presumptuously. You know what I mean? You gotta drill this thing down. You gotta pull the onion back a little bit, and say, man, why do I desire this? Why do I want this? And then begin to peel that onion back a little further, and you'll get to that real why you desire that particular thing, or that service, or that guys that shop, women, me and Renee would go shopping, and
Who's Renee? Who's Renee?
My wife, man.
Right.
Like, what I'm saying? It's like she likes to shop, like, she likes to search things out, and I'm like, I already know before I leave home. Like, I'm not
right.
My mindset works like a heat sinking missile. Let's go in here and I'm gonna grab this, and then let's go in here and I'm gonna grab that, and then we're out of there. We're back, So I have to get my mind ready for her when we go in that kind of setting, because she might try some stuff on and then look at it and then leave, and then let me go back there and then put the same. I was like, come on now. You playing, right?
Right.
I know I know you ain't serious, for real. Right. We gonna do this all day? Like,
hours later. Yeah. But I love what you said, talking about, because you used another word. It brings, you're clear. It brings clarity.
Yes,
there's a knowledge, knowing what you want brings clarity. And I know, keyword, no pun intended, that you're real big on clarity. You're big on clarity.
Clarity is power, man. You know,
Yeah.
if you don't know, then who does? Like, I know exactly if Exxon can say, this is how many barrels of crude oil we're going to sell in 2022, 2023, 2024 to the barrel. You understand what I'm saying? How does the Rothschild family plan their family plan out 125 years?
Yes.
I'm like, who does that? I mean, we wouldn't even talk about planning like that. We would talk about people at the table. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so you're wondering why these realities are different. And you're saying, well, how come? We're like, well, you could talk about these people. And I never talk about people who have what I desired. I always bless them.
Right.
I had to learn that, because I did talk about people.
Yeah. Yep. It was
Initially.
learned. Yeah. Yep.
That was a learned behavior. But, I was around those complaining people who weren't clear. And we were wondering why we never had what we desired, because nobody was clear on it.
They were not clear on it. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. You know what? And it is what it is. It's 45, 46 minutes.
Yeah.
And first of all, thank you, Coach, man, for I could pick up the line, Coach, I got an idea. You're like, okay, I'm in, man. Just tell me when to be there. Tell me what. And that's always been you. And one of the things that I appreciate about you is your availability. You know what? You make yourself available. Now, I know if it's during basketball season, or is there, it's like, brother, yeah. Which is coming up here during basketball season, the kids come first, and I totally respect that. Totally respect that.
Yeah.
But even then, we can move things around. So, hey, if you're listening to this live, or you'll be watching the recording, I tell you one thing: we haven't decided. We'll be having conversation on what day and the time. Most likely, probably something in the afternoon, because then I can take this and do little snippets and put it out there in the evening time, or your drive time in the morning. We've got some things on the table that he and I are discussing that we really believe we can pour into people and help them in their journey, navigating the journey and changing the trajectory of their life, helping in that, and so I love Coach OVO because he loves God more than anything else, because he loves God and he knows God. There's some people, I want to talk about the 3 levels of knowing, but I won't do that today. But he knows the 3rd level. He knows God, intimately knows God. And so it helps to change my life. And I'm just so thankful. Coach, I'm going to give you the last word, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and we'll catch him up, or let him know when we're going to come back. At least I know we're going to do this once a week.
Yes.
And we'll solidify the day and hour, and maybe we can do it like twice a week, but for sure, once a week, because you help to hold me accountable.
Oh, man, I thank you, man. I just thank you for, airing the platform, putting it together, and giving us the opportunity to do it, man. So I'm looking forward to it, man. And I'll be here with bells and whistles, man. So back over to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for those that have stayed on and those that have been listening. If you got questions, go ahead and put them in there. And I'll make sure that I follow up with you. Coach, I love you so much. Thank you so much, dear brother. And we'll talk to you soon.
Love you more, man.
All right.
Peace and blessings.
Also unto you.
All right, ciao.